Based on what Elon Musk is saying to Elizabeth Warren, he's earned my trust.
Oh my.
I don't know if I would take the computer implant from Elon Musk, but the story is still pretty funny. Elon Musk feuds with Elizabeth Warren over billionaire taxes. Senator Karen. All right. So billionaire Elon Musk fired back at comments from Senator Elizabeth Warren on Tuesday, telling her to stop projecting and calling her Senator Karen. I'll just show you exactly what happened. Here's on Twitter. Elizabeth Warren says, she posts the Boston Globe, Elon Musk named Times Person of the Year. She said, let's change the rigged tax code so the person of the year will actually pay taxes and stop freeloading of everyone else. Elon Musk said, among other things, and if you opened your eyes for 2 seconds, you would realize I will pay more taxes than any American in history this year. And Elon is correct. The establishment left, with like faux progressives like Warren, are able to convince these progressives to believe this stuff just by saying it. It's the craziest thing to me that they go, did you know Elon Musk and Amazon paid no taxes? And I'm like, that's insanely not true. There's like, it is objectively false. It makes no sense on its face. Why would you believe that? Because they said it. Elizabeth Warren says it and it gets repeated. It's just not the case.
Yeah, what's the story with that? When they say Apple paid no corporate taxes this year, is that because their costs outweighed their expenditures outweighed their?
It's usually a manipulation because one thing you always have to pay taxes on would be like employment tax, property tax. You've got local taxes, state taxes. Now, federally or even at the state level, they might say, you know, we invested X. We worked out a deal with the city for a tax incentive to put money somewhere. And so quite literally what could happen is the city goes to Apple and says, tell you what, if you spend, you know, $500 million building a factory here with X amount of jobs, then we will consider that an investment for tax purposes and you know, give you a tax benefit of X. And then it's like, okay. So the government cuts a deal in exchange for an economic incentive with the company. And then the left comes out and says, but they're not paying taxes. It's like, but they're doing what the government asked them to do. So imagine if they came out and said, no, government, I won't do anything you say. And the government would then be like, okay, pay taxes. And they'd be like, okay. And not only that, whenever they say this, they always use weasel words to make it seem like Elon Musk pays no taxes. Elon Musk, I believe, is correct when he says he pays more taxes than any American in history.
Huh.
Because he's selling off all his property. That's huge. That's going to dramatically reduce his tax bill. But his tax bill was probably insanely huge just off of owning things. And so basically this is all about the stupid wealth tax, which makes no sense, where they're like, we're going to tax people for cash on things that aren't liquid, which is the dumbest idea ever. Like you could have this gorilla right here. And then one day someone's like, that's a rare gorilla. It's worth $1 million. And then all of a sudden I'm supposed to pay $1 million because I have a plastic gorilla sitting on my desk. That makes no sense.
Yeah. The 0.0001% Native American Senator Karen also really hates cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and has called for a lot of regulation, a lot of government intervention, and an extremely high tax rate for people using cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. So there's a big divide between Elizabeth Warren and, of course, Elon Musk. And Elon Musk has been on a tear lately. He's been making a lot of bold, big statements, specifically saying that he doesn't want the Build Back Better bill. He thinks that bill should be absolutely shunned away. He thinks that the United States government is just a major corporation that has a monopoly of violence. He's been speaking out against a lot of core issues, including vax mandates, saying that absolutely there shouldn't be any vax mandates. And it's really interesting to see his talking points. And I think, you know, a lot of times people are changed politically, especially when they look at the taxes that they have to pay out of their paycheck. So I think, you know, most definitely Elon Musk saw the taxes he had to pay, and that kind of changed him politically, being like, this is pissing me off. I'm going to voice my opinion since I'm giving so much money to these people.
And these multinational corporations, it's very interesting when you do research into them. These bills, these tax increase bills, potential tax increase bills are going to screw over small businesses, mid-sized businesses, because multinational corporations, I mean, I've been covering Pfizer for quite some time now. They can offshore their profits and build a headquarters in Ireland and say, you know, we made $50 billion in Ireland. We're paying 2% in taxes this year because all of our profits are in Ireland. If you're a mom and pop shop that generates like a gross revenue of $1 million, there's no way you're going to be able to offshore any of your profits. So these bills, Senator Warren is a total fraud. If you notice that when she talks about, oh, we're going to go after Wall Street, she never names a firm on Wall Street that she's going to go after because she's in their pocket. And for some reason, it's interesting with Elon Musk. He's kind of becoming based now, and he's on the really bad side of the Biden administration to the point where they had a big electric vehicle meeting at the White House and how to craft that bill, and they did not invite Tesla. That's like not inviting, Sony to the Future of Video Games conference. It's just very bizarre.
I want to explain something to people about taxes that a lot of these progressives don't understand. Do you think that, Bezos cares about his tax rate? He does not. He's probably like, I got too much money, man. I don't even know. When he gets his paycheck, because Bezos gets $81,000 a year, is his salary. And then he gets incentives, which ultimately, like bonuses, he ultimately comes out to about $1.6 million. He probably looks at it and goes, oh. Because how much money do you really need to get by? So Bezos has his stock, he has his assets, he has tons of money. But at the end of the day, he gets his paycheck and he probably says, I don't even look at it. He probably just ignores it outright because it's meaningless. Now, a poor person. I remember it was like my third job. I was working for an airline out of O'Hare Airport, and I'd worked 40 hours at $10 an hour. And so I was like, all right, so it's going to be what? It's like, that's $400, and then I got to pay taxes. So I imagine maybe I'll end up with, $300 to $350. We'll see what happens. And my paycheck was like $270 something. And then I got my paycheck and I looked at it and I just was like, what the? And then all the older guys who were there started laughing and they were like, he saw the taxes, didn't he? And then I was like, dude, I'm poor. I can't afford to live. Like working 40 hours at $10 an hour and then being told that almost half of the money I'm making, was like 28% or whatever, is taken from me. I needed those hours. I needed that money. I couldn't afford rent. I couldn't afford my car. I couldn't afford healthcare. But when you're rich, and they go, we're going to take, you've got, your salary is $10 million. We're taking half. You go, I don't know. So what's my paycheck this month? $488,000, whatever. Deposit it. I'm sitting on assets. I don't care. I don't even notice. So these tax increases are negligible to a lot of these people.
Well, a lot of the super rich have called for more tax increases because it makes sure that they stay on top and their competition doesn't have an opportunity to have enough income to be able to compete with them. So, these people want higher taxes because it actually benefits them. They want more regulations. They want a higher minimum wage because at the end of the day, it's destroying small mom and pop businesses while, of course, it's benefiting them greatly. And they have other ways. They have so many different incentives, whether it's setting up offshore corporations and then selling off the intellectual property towards a domestic company here in the United States. There's so many different rules. There's a reason the tax code is as big as it is because there's a lot of exemptions for a lot of powerful people that helped write it that works in their favor that obviously screws everyone else who would be competition to those people.
Exactly. This Build Back Better bill that they're promoting in Congress and that Joe Biden's all about and all those people are all about. This was crafted by the lobbyists for the giant corporations. It's by and for these giant corporations. It is not to help our economic engine. It is, as Luke said, it's to seal off the competition from these oligarchs. That's the entire purpose of it. It's this state corporate enterprise that they want to phase out all types of possible competition.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, I was just thinking about taxes, man.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I'm going through the numbers, and it's interesting that I'm imagining back when I was younger and trying to calculate budget. How many hours this week do I have to work to get by? And how taxes really brutalize you when you're making just enough to be above poverty or whatever. They take taxes out anyway. And it's like if you got to pay $500 a month in rent, and you can only work 40 hours a week, like, you're going to be struggling to make ends meet. If you've got rent, food, health insurance, whatever, you want the bare minimum, then any amount of taxes taken out is gutting you. Dude, to be told that, you're going to lose 230, effectively like 23 hours of the work you did that week or 20 hours of the work you did that week, it's like, why even do it? If you're working that much to have it taken away from you. Maybe it's unfair to say that much. Maybe it's like, 13 hours or whatever. The point is, for people who are extremely well off, You could tell an ultra rich person we're taking 90%, and they'd be like, I don't know, I don't care about my income anyway because everything's in hard assets and everything's accruing in value.
Exactly.
So what does it even mean to me?
It's in property, it's in stocks, and
But this is the problem then when they say they want to raise taxes across the board. I mean, even Bernie Sanders' plan, I think, would have still raised taxes for like middle class and upper middle class people. And what I try to explain to a lot of people at Occupy Wall Street, for instance, and other leftist activists, what we need, in my opinion, is more tax brackets, not just to be like, after you make $250,000, we tax you at this percentage. Because somebody who makes $250,000 being taxed, 48% or whatever, or 38%, I think it is, then they end up getting take home about $100,000 or so. But somebody who's making $10 million, who's taxed at the same rate, doesn't notice a difference when they're having millions of dollars deposited in their account.
I have a little bit of a different perspective. I think there should be no taxes, and if the government wants to launch any project, they have to do it through GoFundMe, and they have to have enough public support and private charity to do so. I think that would be a more rational way to do this than, of course, steal people's money.
Yeah,
I like that for some, except for like utilities, about like water, the water supply and the power supply, the military.
If you look at most power supply companies, especially in California, it is riddled with corruption. You look at Venezuela and their kind of energy companies, when they were, of course, brought into the state government, it absolutely ruined Venezuela. The infrastructure hasn't been updated. The government has no incentive in order to provide you any quality of service. The private market does. And that's why I would argue the government getting involved makes the situation that much worse.
What about the water supply? Because if the water supply goes haywire, the government...
Well, it depends on like what aspect and what variability you're discussing. Like, are we talking about sanitation? Are we talking about cleaning
and access?
Yeah,
to
who's
clean
going to
water?
take my poop from my house?
That's right.
Luke, in your Ron Paul and Capistan paradise, where does poop go?
There's literally companies out there that are developing technology that makes poop into to energy,
methane,
and power. So the private market would be, again, way better. I'm not saying it's going to be a perfect system. Obviously, with any system, there's going to be some kind of harm. There's going to be some kind of idiot that ruins it for everyone else. But I think overall, there would be a lot less harm, a lot more economic prosperity, a lot more freedom, just like we saw in Singapore, just like we saw a few years ago in Hong Kong. Civilizations,
bro, they execute you if they find you with
now they do. But Singapore became known on the world stage as a free economic market where a lot of people fled to, and it was able to build a society that was a free market society that allowed private enterprise to thrive, and it created some of the most richest people in the world. Now, obviously, has devolved into a full technocratic state with a social credit score, with surveillance cameras watching your every move. If you spit on the ground or if you chew gum the wrong way, I thought I was sweating bullets in Singapore with Tim, because of a disgruntled Tinder date was saying that she was going to call the police on me for not going on the date with her.
Luke got catfished.
Oh, it was bad. It was horrible. I luckily was able to kind of see it.
And then we had to like escape out the back door or whatever. It was funny. I was laughing the whole time.
Yeah, luckily I made it out, but I was sweating bullets apart with what was happening there. It's a crazy way that they decided to live their lives. But anywhere you see the free market kind of activated, you see a lot of individual freedom. You see a lot of liberty. You see a lot of services that are incentivized to help the person rather than a government that will take your money and then doesn't need to provide you a good service.
What if we created like a special economic zone in the United States?
Yeah.
That was like totally, free market. We had two different ones. One was for the commies and one was for the ANCAPs, and then you could choose which one you wanted to go live in.
Perfect. That would be absolutely beautiful.
One city is dedicated to the communists, and once you choose to live there, you can't choose not to. And then the free marketplace, you can come and go as you please.
Exactly. And then if commies want to live in their own commune, go ahead. I won't be mad about it. Would you?
No. Tim, you're a cold weather guy, right? What about Greenland? Big piece of property over there. Free economic
Yeah, I know.
zone
And Trump
Greenland.
wanted to buy it. Yeah. And I was like, that sounds great.
Heck yeah.
And they made fun of him for it. And it's so weird because like it wasn't even that long ago we bought Alaska. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it would provide so much, opportunities. It would provide a lot of expansion. It would provide, potentially an economic free zone, which I think would be amazing. And if you look at the history of those, they always turn out into incredible things. You look at the history of government top-down centralization controlling every aspect of the financial institutions, you see communism, and you see people starving and not having food, people being slaughtered and sent to the gulags. And I think there's a big overall trend when it comes to economic freedom and political freedom.
We need Starlink. We need low latency, high speed satellite internet. Then you can live and work from anywhere, and that's what I'm excited for, because we've been looking at, we're in West Virginia, we're setting up this big 50-acre property, but we're still out here because we have to be close to a major airport or whatever. And so that will tether us in our operation, closer to, bigger cities. But you could go to a smaller regional airport and someone could fly to a major airport and then to the smaller airport. And then you could effectively have a media operation in the middle of Wyoming, in the middle of nowhere, so long as you have that satellite, that low latency communications,
Starlink
or Greenland.
And decentralized server space. That's once we get Starlink and like maybe satellite server space too, orbital server space, I think we're going to be.
I think the future of this planet is going to be people spreading out outside of cities and then wiring themselves into the metaverse and living digital virtual lives. Could you imagine just like if your entire life was the Matrix, but it wasn't like the movie The Matrix. You knew you were in the Matrix. So basically you'd like wake up in the morning and you'd brush your teeth. Then you'd go into your pod, that stimulates your muscles so you don't atrophy. And then you enter the digital space. And then you're in Greenland, doing your work. And you're like, I got a meeting in New Zealand. And then you just walk up to a door and you type, you activate it. New Zealand, please. The door opens right up and you walk right to New Zealand. Because you're in a virtual world.
Dude, it'll be like I'll be in my house, you'll be in your house, but we'll both be in this studio digitally. It'll look like it, that we're both sitting next to each other, and we'll be seeing each other.
You can do that now.
And the video will look like we're all in the room together.
Well, yeah, because we'll be wired in the Matrix.
But here's the thing. So we're all kind of against it now. But because if we're talking about this future technology in the sense that they can kind of regulate your dopamine, we will all become addicted to the metaverse. That's the problem.
It's not even about that. It's not going to be. It's not going to be that tomorrow, Elon Musk knocks on your door and then he's holding the chip and then two guys in white coats pin you down and you're like, no. It's going to be that they're going to roll out the neural cap. It's a hat you wear that can alert you when your phone goes off or something like that, or Google Glass. It's going to be some small convenience we accept. And then every day the convenience is going to escalate. Think about how cell phones started. Big gray block. You pull the antenna up. It had 4 hours of power, only worked downtown, and they sucked. And then I remember when, my mom had a cell phone. It was like roaming charges and connections, and it worked. It was better. It was like a gray Motorola, and you'd flip it down. Then I got my first candy bar phone. These phones didn't do anything, but it was convenient to have. You could talk to people, or beepers, for instance. Now we have the summation of the access to the summation of human knowledge in our pockets. We can film videos. It is escalating. Everyone accepts it. They're okay with being tracked. They're okay with being spied on because of the convenience. So Neuralink will happen. Whatever, all this metaverse stuff will happen. No one will resist it. We're going to accept it and be happy about it. How many people, if you went back in time and said, I'm going to take away your landline phone and you will be happy, they'd be like, no, I wouldn't. I need my phone. Be like, no, don't worry. We're going to give you a tracking device that people can track everywhere you go, no matter where you go, and it'll spy on you, but you'll be able to talk to people. They'll be like, screw that. Are you nuts? No, give me my phone back. That's not where we're at now, is it?
So I'm watching the chat room and someone just left a comment saying, imagine this chat, but in VR. And I'm like, whoa, that would be wild. I'm seeing what you guys are saying here. It's
it already
pretty
exists,
crazy.
Dude. It already exists. Yeah. There's on Oculus, I don't know what it's called. It's like live chat. And I brought up the duck thing of that little kid because I was playing the game. I was playing Space Robot Trainer, that pirate game. That's so fun. You're like, you got robots and you're like, you're shooting at them. And then I went to the chat room and it's like people walking around and there was a duck just like walking around doing stuff. And I'm like, someone literally went in this game and said, I would like to be a duck. And they did. The graphics are trash, mind you, because the processing power isn't all that great or whatever. But imagine what it's going to be like when they synchronize Neuralink. How long is that going to be? 10 years? 20 years? Maybe that's a bad estimate. Maybe 30 or 40.
Oh, it could be
still
much sooner than that.
I know. Look at 1986, 1981. The video games that were out. Mario Brothers. 30 years. Look where video games ended up. You've got first person 3D. Now look where we are. It's been almost 40 years. It's been over 40 years. And look how rapidly video game technology has advanced to the point where now we got VR glasses. With the new Oculus, you put it on and there's no wires. You can go out in your backyard and set your space and then just do whatever in virtual reality.
Wireless.
Yep.
I keep thinking about the chimp. Did you guys ever see the video of the chimp on Instagram? Just look it up someday. I don't know if you want to bring it up now. It's kind of a non sequitur. It's a little.
What about the chimp?
It's just a chimpanzee on Instagram. He's on Instagram swiping, and it's like it looks like a human. Like this is.
Oh, this right here. Yeah.
This is nuts.
Is this? Here we go.
I mean, we are.
He's
Animals
he's
are
watching
built-
videos of chimps doing chimp stuff.
Yeah. You see other chimps.
Well, yeah, but chimps are smart. Monkeys are smart too.
We'll be
Swiping.
in the
Look at
metaverse
this,
with these
dude.
guys.
Look at that. He's swiping. He's looking for stuff. And
chilling.
he hits it and he's like, "Yo, what up?"
That may help us understand other animals a lot better because if we can wire
Isn't that
them
crazy?
into the metaverse
He just knows
with
how
us,
to do it.
like if you could neural net and synchronize with an ape, and then you can kind of understand the animal more,
I don't know, man.
and it could understand you more. Maybe.
I think everything that we're saying is going to be viewed in the future as like stodgy, old people complaining. We're going to be laughed at. Remember that guy? Jim, I don't know if you know this, Ian. There's a guy who was it? It was someone famous. He said the internet wouldn't take off.
Oh, Robert Reich, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think so.
Is that Krugman?
It was Krugman.
Krugman.
I think
He's
it was
wrong about
Krugman.
everything.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think it was
both
Krugman.
of them.
Yeah,
Could be both of
possibly.
them.
And he was like, the internet will not be part of the economy or something like this.
He likened it to a fax machine. He said
Yeah.
it would be as big a deal as a fax machine. I think that was the quote.
Let's see what he did. Krugman say the internet's effect on the world economy would be no greater than the fax machines? True.
Look at that.
Man, this guy is still today a very dumb
Nobel
person.
Prize winning economist.
That's right.
Wow.
Wrong about everything.
But think about it, man. People back then, I remember watching, I watched these old videos that come up where they're like, no, the internet's not going to take off. While certainly an interesting novelty, it won't be. And then you get Krugman, you get other people like it. Watching these old videos about the internet, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Because it is life today.
Well, even with cell phones and the advent of social media, I would say it was a net positive in the very beginning because it was unfiltered, uncontrolled. There was no major algorithms. It was what you subscribe to is what you get. And there was a moment in time where people finally started to get the true window to the reality of the world that wasn't controlled by any kind of special interest. Now those doors are closing, and I'm seeing social media as a net negative, especially with the psychological disorders that it has caused so many young people, causing people to, of course, be so unhappy. But the larger debate that I think should be sparked here, is it because we have too much knowledge that has gone into our brain too fast? Is the ability to be able to know anything in a moment something that is detrimental to human society or human beings, a power that they never had before? That's an interesting kind of debate that I've been kind of listening and hearing about that I think is worth talking about.
In 50 years, people are all born and they're implanted with their neural chip. And they grow up and they live mostly in the metaverse. And there's a young man, and he meets a young woman, and they're getting along swimmingly and they're all excited. And then they're like, oh, I've got to move pods. I'll come help you move your pod. And then the guy's like, that'd be great. Yeah, they're coming to move the pod to unit C39 over, about a block from my house. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be annoying. And then, one day there's a knock on the door, and it's like a 6'3", really burly bearded man. And he's like, Rick, good to see you. And he's like, Janet. And they hug and they kiss. And then they carry the pod out to the new unit. Then they go back in their pods. And, the big bearded guy is actually a 5'7" blonde woman in the metaverse. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, and it's going to be normal. And people are going to be like, whatever. Because their reality is going to be the metaverse. And the real world, base reality, is going to be a chore. It's going to be ancillary. It's going to be like something they have to deal with.
It's gonna hurt. They're like,
That's right.
Gravity hurts.
Yup. It's going to be like, when you're like in a pool and then when you get out, you're like, oh man, like, no, cold. It's like all of a sudden, like when you're in the water,
heavy,
you can move
yeah.
much more easily. And then when you lift up, you're like, whoa, I'm heavy now. And you got all this water holding you down. That's what it's going to feel like. People are going to live that way. It's like in that movie Surrogates where there's that hot blonde woman and then like the machine blows her head up. They go to the apartment and it turns out it's this morbidly obese guy who's in the machine, like hooking up with dudes.
There's something to that in the age of gender fluidity where like you can be any gender and you can pick your avatar kind of. I mean, it totally synergizes with what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you think? What's the future going to look like in a few years from now?
So from a technological aspect, you have the famous Moore's law. But what you find, I think this might be a problem of our progeny. I don't know. I'm not convinced it's going to happen so fast because technological innovation in the electronic space is actually slowing down. So you have a circuit board and there's only so many transistors that you can pack on there. So it's probably going to take something like a Neuralink technology, totally flip the board over, start working on like brain electrodes, because in terms of like improvement of technology, the idea it is no longer exponential, and it hasn't been for quite some time. It's actually eventually going to flatten out, because this circuit board technology, it's already like done by robots and microscopic. There's literally like no more room for these electrons to move.
The transistors have become so small that electrons aren't even falling on the path. They're jumping off and moving between things.
They're using sound now as a waveguide to force the electrons along the path, so they don't actually have to use. I don't want to get this wrong. I don't know more about it, but they're using sound to guide the light.
Yeah. So with a Neuralink, if you're doing brain surgery, then who knows where this takes off? But if you're trying to use like your Oculus to expand into the metaverse, I don't see it as being something so similar to human life through that platform. But again, when you're dealing with the brain, who knows what could happen?
So what if in the future we stop making, computer chips and we start just growing brain matter? And then you're like, dude, the new Ryzen Threadripper 5000 organic, and it's just like a brain in a vat. And it's got ports and everything.
We start having cone heads, just like in the Hollywood movies, because there's also
we're using our own brains as our desktops. Is that what you're saying?
No. Just like in the Conehead movie, their brains just start expanding upwards. And there's also
that wasn't in the Coneheads movie.
Yes, it was.
No, they were just aliens with cone heads.
Exactly. We could become the next. Brains. Yeah, they probably had bigger brains. No, right? They have bigger.
I don't know.
Mass. But there's also a set
smart.
of human beings that are recorded with their skeletons having cone heads.
That's if they were doing elongation and stuff.
Some people are debating that, but there's also some other interesting theories by Brian Forrester that contradict that theory as well. I don't know what the truth is, but if we're going to be expanding brains, I'm pretty sure it's going to be cone heads.
I was thinking, but I think what we should do is, now that vax mandates are normal, we should actually just have a metaverse mandate. And then we should send the government out to forcefully Neuralink chip people's brains and plug them in against their will. Because once you connect them to metaverse and you can control their thoughts, you can take away the pain, and then they'll like it.
Perfect.
So all we have to do is chase people down while chanting "one of us, one of us."
Perfect.
And they'll be scared at first, but as soon as you infect them with the metaverse, they'll easily calm down and then join you in your quest.
That's ethical.
To transform everyone else into a singular being.
Just like the Independent says, we have to radicalize the hardcore anti-vaxxers. And treat them like terrorists, So it makes sense.
I don't know what that has to do with it.
That's the Independent. It's all for the greater good, Tim.
Yeah,
Send them to the metaverse in the name of health.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.